Okay, why don't we get started? And then if anyone comes in, we'll have to just kind of catch up. So do we have close to full house? I think it's pretty
Close.
close. That's good. I appreciate my name's Ken Kaplan. I appreciate you all coming out. It's a wonderful affirmation of interest in the topic. And I've been doing this for about 25 years. This is a gift that I had. I never studied it formally. Dream work. I've been doing it professionally for about 15 years. We have some more. But dreams were very important to me because I had some very, very powerful dreams with a spiritual teacher many years ago, 1971 it started. And I would wake up in ecstatic bliss from these dreams. They were very biblical in nature in terms of the effect they had on me. Because you usually don't have dreams where you feel this otherworldly love and power and bliss and guidance. So I was interested in dreams. I always had very good dream recall. And then, for some reason, about 25 years ago, I read this book. Now, back in the day, things were different in the 70s. Ann Faraday had worked with in some of the earliest studies of kind of what we call the physiology of dreams, which is, wiring the REM cycle, how many dreams you have all the night, what goes on in brain activity, that kind of stuff. So one misconception to get out of the way right away is everybody dreams. Everybody dreams. It's just that everybody doesn't remember their dreams. Even when people didn't remember their dreams, we find that the same REM, or rapid eye movement, activity happens during the night. Usually people have about 5 major dreams a night. Sometimes, but generally, if we do recall them, we might recall 1 or 2, usually the one that's closest to waking up in the morning. So she wrote a book called Dream Power, which was explaining her affiliation with dreams. She worked with one of the great psychologists of the 20th century. His name is Fritz Perls, and he founded Gestalt psychology. Does anybody know about Fritz Perls at all?
Yeah.
Okay, Gestalt means one or whole. And he developed the philosophy that if you wanted to do some psychological work, well, that because everything that happens to you is contained in parts, let's say, for example, this is what we do in psychology, let's say you were working with issues around a parent like your father. Well, you would sit in one chair, and you would talk to your father. And then because what you had gained from your father, you would internalize, you'd sit in the other chair and become your father. And the father voice within you would give voice. You could then dialogue with the various parts because they were part of a whole. And it was a very unusual technique in which people have gained. It's a great way to use to bring forth kind of clarity and illumination. And what we find in dreams is that dreams follow the same principle of holistic. That we'll get to that in a second. So I read this book, and her first book sold 300,000 copies, which would never sell today in that way. We're a different society today. But this was her second book, and this was her book on how to interpret dreams, what's going on with them. It's very complete, very thorough, and she was one of the finest dream workers of the 20th century. The other one is, that I really love a lot, is Gail Delaney. She runs a website. I have it written down for you on the sheet you have. And she did a lot of, she's a psychologist who's also a tremendous dream expert. These are the 2 people I relied upon the most. There's some people that I respect who are more popularized. I think Dr. Oz brings someone onto his show. Her lucid dreams a little bit. I forget her name. I don't watch it. So once I read this book, for some reason I had it. I just had it. I had a grasp of what they were about, and I had a grasp of how to break them down for people. Now, I, for years, was a professional storyteller, and I still am, but my primary occupation at the time was storytelling for children, and some storytelling for adults. And when I would go to storytelling conferences, one of the things we do, we would all be in a dorm together over 3 days, and people would start coming to me with their dreams. And I would sit down and say, I've had this dream for 15 years, and I can't figure it out. And in 15 minutes, we would unlock it. And then they start calling me Joseph. But it was uncanny. I just seemed to have this sense of how they worked and how to work with people to work with them. And through the years, what I've noticed, I've not done any formal study. I never went to a dream workshop with anybody. I never studied with a mentor. But what I have done is in reading a little bit more widely. So I'm certain there are lots of things I don't know. I've talked with people who've worked with 30,000 dreams in their lives. I would say that in terms of therapy, if you want to find a therapist who works with dreams, go to a Jungian. Don't go to a Freudian. Freud had dreams backwards. He misunderstood them very badly. He didn't understand they came from the subconscious. That was his great contribution. But he got them backwards. He thought that dreams were trying to conceal because they were so symbolic. Dreams, Freud was correct. He named two parts of a dream. There's what's called the manifest content, which is the crazy way that all the stuff shows up. And there's what's called the latent content, which is the actual meaning of the dream contained in the symbols. Freud thought the manifest content was the subconscious trying to hide its urges, wishes, and desires from the conscious mind. He was wrong. Jung was correct. The dreams work in symbolic language, and basically they're trying to reveal what your inner life is all about. They just use a different language. It's in symbol, metaphor, and in narrative that's visual. So I put here on the sheet, if you look at it, I'm going to get right to the nub of what I feel dreams are about. The purpose of dreams, in my opinion, after working with them, and this is the opinion of most people who are very skilled in working with dreams, is that the purpose of dreams is somehow it's a mechanism set within the body, in the system for human beings, that derives primarily from the subconscious, that attempts to or wants to reveal the full nature of your inner life and what's going on to you in no uncertain terms for you, in its completeness. This is with every dream, every night. They never lie. They always give you the absolute truth of what's going on. And part of that purpose is to support you in healing and moving toward integration of the self. So dreams actually have a purpose. It's not like, okay, we get these dreams and they're kind of interesting and blah, blah, blah. No, the dreaming mind is always seeking to guide you toward healing and integration. And we'll go through the 4 stages of the dream a little bit later on, but at the end of the dream is usually where the dream will give you its message as to where it's trying to guide you. Dreams are far more formal and structured than we ordinarily think. We think they're haphazard and crazy. They're not. There's an internal logic to dreams, but you have to, it's like learning Greek or anything else. You have to learn how to unlock the dream. It's kind of hard to work on your own dreams. It really is. It's like anything else in life. We see what's going on with someone else really easily, right? But when it comes to our own stuff, we're lost. So I want to go through, and I want to say dreams never lie. They will always tell you. You might come home from a party, feel great, and have a nightmare. Well, that nightmare is telling you something, unless you've eaten a lot of food. Usually eating a lot will stimulate nightmares. So if you listen to the radio, your dreams, it's going to start to pick up and interface with what's going on in the radio. If you go to the bathroom really badly, so dreaming about going to the bathroom. But generally speaking, aside from those kinds of things, dreams are constantly telling you what's going on. Oh, you know what? I forgot. You don't have a wakeboard, do you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Do you have a small one or is it a big one?
It's a big one.
It's a big one? So what's interesting about dreams is that your subconscious knows everything about you. It knows everything about you, down to the day you were born. And so I'm going to go through something called the 4 arcs of the dream. I could use. Do you need help with that, Mark?
No, I'm good.
So can we use this one right here?
Right, just don't move from the spot you were in up there. I'm not in front of the cat behind you.
Most people don't think of, it's interesting, I saw a show on NPR, where all these scientists who work with dreams, people from Harvard and all this stuff, right? And they didn't have a clue. And one of the guys from Harvard, he worked with dreams for 25 years, he looked into the camera, he said, I wish I knew what dreams are about. I wish somebody would tell me. So I wrote him. Where's he didn't write back? I don't even know if he got the email. I said, I'll tell you. And I said, if you got the email, I said, who's this guy? I'm from Harvard, And what I found is that about 25 to 30% of scientists who work with dreams actually believe they have the meaning. I'm thinking to myself, fly.
30% what?
So, okay, before I do the 4 arcs of the dream, okay. Let's start with some of the basics about beginning to understand. If you have any, by the way, if you have any questions as we go along, not so much about a particular dream you've had, we'll do that later, but about what I'm talking about, raise your hand. Don't just jump in. I don't want you to feel lost. Okay. So, what I've learned about dreams is, and this is one of the most important things. I see people like they'll put dreams on Facebook all the time. Have you seen people put dreams on Facebook? Okay. It's useless for a very particular reason. One of the things I've learned about almost all dreams is that they have a direct relationship to the waking life. The dream, night after night after night, is a direct expression of your feelings, your thoughts, your responses, your beliefs about what's going on with you in your waking life. And you cannot even begin. Thanks so much. Is there a little marker?
I have to go get markers now.
Sorry, I should let you know. So the bottom line is that if you don't bridge, Gabrielini calls it a bridge. If you don't bridge the dream to the waking life, you can never find out its meaning. The dreams are not, there's a misconception that dreams are free floating. They're not. They are expressions of the waking life. And what's more, nothing can appear in a dream if it isn't in your waking life. So as dreams change, as your waking life changes, your dreams will change. But the dream can't change. I'll give you an example. I had a fellow, and he told me that he used to have a recurring dream. He was always underground in a labyrinth, a maze, and he couldn't find his way out. He was at a school, it was at the same school I went to, where there's a thing called the Rathskeller, which is like the social area, where they had beer and brats and fires, because it was cold in Wisconsin. So he would constantly have this dream of being trapped in this labyrinth, and no matter where he went in the labyrinth, he couldn't get out. Well, it turned out that this was symbolic of the fact that he was in a bad marriage, and he felt trapped. And therefore, wherever he turned, wherever which way he went, the feeling of being trapped, the dream was symbolic of that feeling, and there was no way out. When he divorced his first wife and got married again to a second wife, all of a sudden he had the same dream, but the dream changed. And this time, every time he had the dream, he would find his way out, and he would make his way to his friends on the couches and socialize, and the dream would always end up with a lot of good feeling. So in other words, as the waking life changed, the dream followed. The dream is the expression of the waking life. Now there's one caveat or counter to this, and I'll explain it just in a second, because we're going to get a marker here, and then I will. Thank you. Like a kid in a candy store here with all these markers. These are the, not the washable ones, these are the, this is not one for the board, it's for the
paper.
For the paper, good. Okay. So, I should copyright this, or video on this, but I actually should copyright this, because I've never seen it anywhere. I'm going to show you what I call the 4 arcs of the dream, okay? Related to the waking life. Forgive my terrible art. Okay. So, the first arc of the dream is the trigger. Usually a dream is always triggered by an event of the day of the dream, or a time very, very close to the day of the dream. It's just universally so. The second arc goes from the shoulders. These are the predominant content of the dream. This second arc are your beliefs, how you're responding to what your feelings are and your thoughts and emotions about people, events, and situations in the life that are taking place at the time of the dream. Usually, not only the day of the dream, but what's predominantly on your mind. If you're moving and you've really been anxious about moving, then the content of the dream is probably going to be about your feelings about moving and what's going on with you around that. I had someone recently gave me a dream. Her dog is dying. Actually, the dog passed. Actually, I have a dream here. And the dream was all about my dog started jumping all over my bedroom items. There was a mouse. The mouse looks at me and charges at me. He bites me and my dog, jumps in and tears them apart. I look at my hand and I can feel the stinging bite. I make my way to the bathroom while calling the hospital. He simply asked that I receive a tetanus shot. I said yes 2 years ago. He said it's okay, that's all you need, and hang up on me. My bike was swollen and on fire. I'm in the bathroom, but it had no sink. Just a pedestal. My partner was there, but when I looked at the tub, it was very smaller. The tub should be and was blue instead of white. The tub was filled with water, but was much smaller. They told my dog, who will protect me when you were gone. I pat her and said, good girl. This dream is all about her feelings about the pending death of her dog. Mouse, if you look up what mouse is a symbol. Mouse in dreams is a symbol. This is where dream dictionaries are helpful. Mouse is generally a symbol of being irritated at annoyances that are small and irritating. This mouse it chews on small things. It's not a large animal, so it's about petty annoyances and things that really bother you. But it can mean many different things. You have to kind of select. And the annoyances she was feeling about caring for the dog, and the irritation of the pending death and all the things she had to do and what it was feeling for her are all showing up as the primary second arc of the dream. And the fact that the mouse that it hurts and is swollen means that there's real pain there, okay? But the pain, the hospital in the dream symbolizes that in the end everything will be okay. Internally, not externally, but internally, she has the resources to handle it. A sink is a place where you go to cleanse. Bathrooms generally represent both cleansing and release. It's part of, they reverse certain universal symbols, and I'll talk about that in a second. So in any event, you can see in this dream that this second arc plays out very strongly. This was on her mind. And all the symbols in this dream ended up relating to kind of depending her whole set of feelings about what was going on, about all the ways she had to care for her dog, what was going on for her dog. The third arc of the dream is the major life arc. And here is where your deep life issues come in. So dreams will go down to the bottom of the well. So they will deal with kind of the primary set of emotions you're feeling, but they'll also go to the lifetime issues behind them, which go to all kinds of places in terms of our psyche, our relationship with our parents, relationship with friends from high school, formidable experiences in our life, deep issues we haven't resolved, lifetime issues will show up in the dream. That's the third arc. The last arc is not an arc at all, but this is the unbounded unconscious, or what we sometimes call the higher self. This is where lucid dreams, premonitional dreams, dreams of angels, religious dreams, etc., come from. These are outside time and space. These are all mechanisms of the subconscious. And the subconscious rules this. This is ruled by the superconscious, or what we call God or the higher self. And so, for instance, if you're 10 years old, or let's say 15 years old, and you have a dream of a woman that you're going to marry 10 years later, you know, that's outside time and space. And people do have those kinds of dreams. There's a very famous teacher named Yogananda, and he used to have dreams of the guru who was going to come to him. He would see his face in dreams. Well, but he saw him well before. So also visitations from deceased loved ones are part of this. And a lot of the precognitive stuff comes from this. What's interesting is that oftentimes elements of this will interface with the user's subconscious to give you information. So you might have a visitation from a loved one, but they'll do certain actions in the dream that will be part of this, and they'll be giving you a message. By the way they act, by the way they turn, what they're doing in the dream, they are trying to share information with you. Even though their energy comes from outside your own subconscious, there's something about the way things work, where the higher self and elements, which includes deceased loved ones, will be able to use elements of the subconscious to. And so then, as with all dreams, we have to figure out the kind of, we have to unlock the message of what the dream has to say. So this is all about the daily life. This is all about the way in which the dreams through the arcs give us information about our waking life, but in ways that go much deeper than the conscious mind can fathom. I always say that a really good dream, if you can work it out, is about worth 3 visits to a therapist. And at least 1 visit to a good psychic. Because your inner self knows everything. It's like you have both an inner therapist and an inner psychic at the same time. And it's with you 24/7. The problem is most of us either have no idea that this exists in this way, or we tend to discount it as like they just don't mean anything. I remember I was reading one of these books, and they did experiments with people where they actually trained them to remember their dreams, and they did it under the guise of looking for something else, but actually see if they could stimulate dream recall, which they were able to do. And the time-honored way, if you don't remember your dreams, is you take a notebook or a recorder, put it by your bed. And when you have the intention to remember your dreams, they will start to come to you. I will always recommend to people, start with a fragment. Don't ask for the whole enchilada. If you've built up a kind of way in which your system is not remembering your dreams, you're not going to remember moving that dreams right away, probably. So just to ask your dreaming mind, start sending me some fragments I can remember, but you have to write them down right when before they go. They'll go really fast. You probably, most people remember their dreams, know that when you get a dream, it'll usually go fast, you know? So what you do is you have to get up, even if it's 4 in the morning, you gotta write it down, you know? Some people don't want to do that. I understand. Hey, once you get up at 4 in the morning, write it down. Well, therefore, what I recommend is get a little recorder, digital recorder, and then just, you're in bed and you say, and turn it off and go to sleep. And that way you have it.
What about numbers and dreams?
My experience with numbers, I actually read this from someone, so I learned about it. It depends. Usually numbers and dreams are 2 ways, what I understand, as much as mine. One is usually your subconscious mind will use numbers that are important in your daily life. So look for where's that number in my daily life. But secondly, if you look at a good dream dictionary about numbers, certain numbers are auspicious for certain reasons. The dreaming mind is very strange. It understands numerology. Dreams love to, this is later on here, but dreams love to pun and use sayings. You know, the dreaming mind is very aware of cultural sayings. So the bottom line here is that, for instance, you might have an issue with who wears the pants in the family, or something's a pain in the neck, or you know, imagine. And he's saying, look for sayings in dreams, you know, because dreams seem to be very aware of cultural sayings and puns, and we use them quite often. This goes back to something that Carl Jung was very big about, called I'll write it down. The collective unconscious. And what he meant by this, well, my interpretation of it, where it works, is that we all share cultural experiences together as a group. And therefore, there are going to be certain symbols that we all have in common that mean the same thing to everybody. And the dreaming mind is universal. So in Western societies, a house generally tends to signify the structure of one's life, the totality of one's life. And so therefore, and each room in the house tends to have different symbolic meanings. Also, so therefore, when you're looking at a dream, you want to look at what is the condition of the house. Is it a beautiful house or is it run down? You know, is it my parents' house or is it my house? What kind of neighborhood is it in? What's the surrounding yard like? And then what are the rooms in the house about? So for instance, let's say you're in a house, you're in your house, you know it's your house, but it looks different than your house, and there are rooms that you haven't explored. This tends to represent areas of your life that you haven't explored yet. So, but a car tends to represent the personality or ego. And that's pretty universal. Are you driving the car? Are you not driving the car? What kind of car is it? A shiny new car? Is it beat up old car? Is it broken down by the road? Is it speeding along the highway? Are you in the back seat? These are all the ways that the dreams will put the symbols so that you will get information about yourself and what's going on with your life from the symbols. The numbers are the same way. I just did a dream with someone where there were 3 numbers that are very important: 2, 7, and 4. And the number 7 was a very auspicious good number, which her dreaming mind was saying things are going to really work out for you. I forget what number 2 was. But so numbers in dreams, generally, everything in a dream is symbolic in this meaning. A dream never places anything anywhere for no reason. Everything in the dream, from what I've learned, like I said, not a hair is out of place in the dream. Freud did get a couple things really right. One thing he got was what he had a term called condensation, which is that there's a beautiful way in dreams can take 2 or 3 themes or meanings and put them into one symbol at one time. So don't just look for one thing in a symbol. There can be 2 or 3 different things that the symbol is trying to give you that are all condensed into one thing. Does this make sense to people?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, your question.
Since dreams are connected to everything in your life, I
Right.
think you mentioned that, can you die in your dream?
You mean, can you physically die?
Well, can you witness your death, or can you dream your death?
Oh, I think absolutely. But I don't think, I think that there's an old myth that if you die in your dream, like let's say you're falling and you die, you'll die in real life or waking life. I don't like to say real life, like say waking life. My experience is no, you're not. But yeah, you could. There's a lot of people who see dreams of their own death, of their own funeral.
Yeah,
You know?
there's a reason I've never met anyone who said they died in their dreams.
No, but I've talked to people. That,
Yeah,
there
I
are
my
examples of
dream,
people who
that
have,
happened.
that they've seen themselves die in their dreams. But it's only symbolic. In other words, another example is sex in dreams. People often think like I had a person who had a dream where she had sex with her brother. You think, oh no, it's incest, it's terrible. That's not the meaning at all. Remember, dreams are symbolic. Sex in dreams, she wrote a whole book about sex in dreams. And usually sex in dreams represents union with a part of self. Because sexual union is one of the strongest forms of union we have. The sex with the brother wasn't about wanting to have sex with the brother. Her brother represented a part of herself, of creativity. Her brother's a dream worker too. He's a big center, and he's retired now, but he's a big center in Vermont. And so her brother represented the part of her that was highly creative, highly efficient, motivated, and able to put their stuff out in the world. And in the dream, she was finding union with that part of self. So we take these things literally when they're not meant to be taken literally. We have to take them symbolically. So if you see your own death in a dream, then you have to look back at symbolically. What part of myself has died? What part of myself might be changing? Those kinds of things. No, I have people I've read about, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't necessarily not see yourself as dead. You might see your own funeral. You might see yourself as being killed or something like that. Usually you wake up before, if you're attacked, usually you wake up before you die. But I think it's nothing to worry about, if that's a concern. Okay, so really quickly, and this is important, dream symbols are completely unique to the individual. You have your own inner landscape. So even though these dream dictionaries are helpful, very helpful, as ancillary tools, they are not like Bibles. They're not the main thing to go to, because in beginning to learn about your dreams and work with your dreams, if you decide to do it, you have to take into account what a symbol means to me, not what, so you might see these various meanings for the symbol, but it doesn't apply specifically to you for that. And so there are ways to access the meaning of a symbol, which we're going to get into. Okay, this Gestalt thing, treat all aspects of a dream as you. This is a very, very, very important thing. That, like I said, everything will yield information. So you might ask the light in the dream, why are you here? The one way you can do it is you can take a journal, and you can write, and the main thing is called point of view technique, or Gestalt technique. You usually try to access the symbol by becoming it. Feel it. What's going on with the symbol? Why are you here? What part of myself do you represent? What information do you have to give me? It yields tremendous information. Now, not everybody can do this. Some people have found it's very simple. The most amazing experience I ever had was with a woman who was very, very psychic. And I asked her about a symbol, she would start channeling information right away. It would come through like a torrent, you know? I mean, there was just no need to say, let me think. And it was like, this symbol means, you know, because it was coming from like a higher place. But generally speaking, people are at different places with this. There's also another technique that you use if you want to use Gail Delaney, and I gave you, it's on your sheet here, I want you to take a look at number 5. This breakthrough dreaming is about the dream interview. And I feel for all people, she, in the last 50 years, has developed the one universal system. If you read books by various dream workers, they'll kind of give you hodgepodge ways of getting into the dream. But Gail Delaney's dream interview, I've gotten her website here, Your Sleeping Genius / programs, how to conduct a dream interview. And you go on and there's a whole long page about how to specifically, her technique in the dream interview is, this is the one I had from years ago, but I'm not using it because you can access it on the web. What he wants you to do is imagine inside your head you have an interviewer who's just come from another planet that's going to ask you to describe all the major images in your dream as if the interviewer has never seen the earth before. Have no preconceptions about what you think or feel about anything. This way you find out what you really think about Gene Kelly in your dreams, what you really think about Sharon Stone in your dreams, because you usually don't know until you take the visual image from your dream and put it into words. So there are questions like, well, who is she? What is she like? You're surprised at the things you say. For instance, let's take Brad Pitt. Okay, let's say you had Brad Pitt in a dream. What if we separate ourselves and imagine we're a visitor from another planet, there's nothing about Brad Pitt, what would we start to say about Brad Pitt? Well, the first thing, he's a movie star, right? So therefore, he's someone, and he also has a lot of charisma, and he's extremely handsome. What else might we say about Brad Pitt that we know about him?
He's very generous.
Okay, right, yes, he's very generous, tends to give to more liberal causes, and then we could go on with a number of other things. Once you've established these kind of qualities, particularly someone of that magnitude, then you start to bridge to your daily life and say, who or where in my life, both either in my internal life or in my life, is the Brad Pitt energy, based on the technique of the way you've done it. You have to bridge it back to the daily life. So she gives you the instructions about how to do that. So let's say you have a house. You know, and in the dream you describe the house. You say the house is dilapidated. Do you need enough fancy? We can plan it up. And is there a paper there? Okay. Okay, so then the bottom line is, okay, you describe the house. It's a twin house that normally you'd find in the street, but for some reason it's in the country. Its roof is falling down a little bit. When you go inside, the furniture seems rusty. And then you go through, you would describe it dispassionate that way and say, where in my internal makeup, since we know that the houses represent structure of life, how does this relate to my life? You know, I had a dream, for example, where it was a dream with my spiritual teacher in it, and one of those dreams that were one of the last ones I ever had. I haven't had one for a number of years. I go into the spectrum, but the spectrum is not like, the spectrum is the old, which is not about Carlos now. I should have had cell phones off. Okay. So I walk in the spectrum, it's like a third world bazaar. You know, you got camels everywhere, and like the floor is asbestos and dirty, and like it's not like the spectrum would be with seats. Well, that has a lot to do with how I saw the structure of my life at that time, as impoverished third world. You know, it's just the way, you know, the dream was giving me information right away. So the dream interview is a very, very helpful technique to use that everybody can use to begin. Once you start doing this a little bit and start to bridge images from the dream and start to put the narrative together, it all starts to fall into place. And you start to understand what the dream is revealing to you, and at the end, usually what the dream is trying to guide you. I'll talk quickly about the 4 stages of the dream. So Carl Jung, I'll change it.
I'll change it for
What?
you. I'll change it.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, that's what you want. You knew this was the next one. Carl Jung was brilliant, and I think he really understood dreams. That's why I say if you find a therapist, and, one of the reasons why there aren't a lot of people like me who are not psychologists is that psychologists kind of taken dreams, kind of appropriated them. And so usually you have to be a psychologist in order to work with dreams. It's kind of, there are not people who are drawn as much. You got a lot of psychics out there, got a lot of mediums, got a lot of that kind of stuff, but you got very few people like me who do dream work, who are not licensed psychologists. But the good ones are mostly Jungian ones, because Jung understood dreams really well. So they've studied. She studied in Zurich at the Jung Institute. So, what happened?
He needs help.
It's just falling apart in my hands here.
Oh, I see. So Jung understood that there are 4 stages to the dream. This is true of every human being on Earth. All these rules I'm talking about are universal. Doesn't matter if you're an Eskimo in the north, doesn't mean if you're an Aborigine in Australia, doesn't mean if you're Swedish, and it doesn't matter. In the human being, these rules and structures apply to every single human being. They work exactly the same way for every single human being. So Jung said there are 4 stages of the dream. There's the setting. The dream opens up as to how you see your life at the present moment. The setting will give you the clue as to how you are authentically seeing your dream at the present moment. Not how you would like to see it, and not how you fantasize about it, or how you brag to your friends about it, but your dream will never lie. It will tell you exactly how you see your life. So if you're opening up your dream and you're in a lost and confused place, that's what's going on inside of you. And that's a very common occurring dream. It's called the examination dream. You can't find your car, you're on a street, a strange city, you don't know where you are. You're rushing for the train, you can't catch it. You're trying to finish an exam. There are many variations of what we call the examination dream, where when you're feeling lost and out of control, that will tend to show up as in your dreams. So that's the first thing. Then the dream will present the issue that's at hand. Now, if you're in a celebratory mood, something really good has happened, then you get a good issue. But usually if you've got something you need to work on, the dream will then present the issue to you right after the setting. Sometimes these things will move very fast in the dream. So then you have the issue. The third is, I like to call, he called it something else, I like to call it the development phase. The dream then likes to go deeper into, give you symbols and narrative about what's behind the issue. So it will start to give you a little bit of a story as it deepens as to symbols that will relate to the issue and go deeper into the issue. And finally, he called this lysis, but it means resolution. And this is where the dream gives you its message. So usually I always say to people, although dreams are constantly giving us, if you can only remember one part of the dream, try to remember the end. Try to remember because what?
What if it's remember that the whole dream, do not see that there's an issue? I mean.
Well, you may think there's not an issue, but I would generally think that the issue is presenting itself. Maybe when we get to the hands-on piece, we come to you. Because usually if you write down your whole dream, you'll start to ferret this out.
I did, but it still doesn't.
You didn't have an issue?
There was, that's what I'm saying, in the dream, everything I remember was from beginning to end, but I don't see an issue.
Okay. It may be that was it a celebratory happy dream?
No.
Let's go through. We'll go through it a little bit,
Okay.
real quick, and see if we can figure out where the issue is. We'll take another 10 minutes or so, and we start the experiential part. So, what's very fascinating in history is that the dream, Freud had a dream that prompted him to write the book, The Interpretation of Dreams. It's called the Irma Dream. You can look it up online. And what's fascinating to me about that dream, in my sense, I looked at 9 different interpretations. I hate to say it, it's just my opinion, I thought they were all wrong. I used the dream interview technique because what Freud did is he also wrote, the reason I could work with the dream is that Freud wrote very vividly about what had happened in his life at the time of the dream, and I could marry the symbols of the dream. Freud's dream was telling him at the end that his whole theory of medicine, that his whole theory of psychology was wrong. At the end of the dream, it's about a woman. Freud had gotten information that a patient he had sent to a doctor had nearly killed her. Because Freud thought that there was a relationship between issues of the throat and the vagina. And therefore, everything for Freud was sexual. You know, he was obsessed with that. Which his dream told him, by the way, at the end. And so the woman, he got a huge argument about his theories, about how he's treating people with some doctor friends of his the night of the dream. That was the trigger. Where do we put the, on the floor of the paper?
Oh, it's on the yellow pad on the
No, no,
table.
no.
No, right
Oh,
now.
that one.
So the trigger for Freud's dream was the argument that he had and the event. The context of the dream, the woman shows, in the dream, Freud's at a beautiful dinner party. That's the setting of his life. It's a beautiful middle class dinner party. It's outside, it's on a deck, it's really nice. All of a sudden, a woman appears, and her throat is filled with lesions. Okay, so the throat is the area of the communication, right? And the feminine in the dream represents Freud's inner feminine, the ability to receive, the ability to nurture self. Somehow there's an issue of communication between Freud and his own inner feminine. Okay, the woman is not standing, the woman is triggered by the woman in waking life, but she's showing up. So generally there's some other infirmities with the woman, but she's got lesions in her throat. So as the doctors try to, it's all male doctors, there's a lot of male energy surrounding. But at the end of the dream, which I find most interesting, is that a very good friend of his, who he really respected a lot, takes an unclean hypodermic needle and injects something into the woman. And Freud can't understand why his doctor friend, no doctor should take an unsterilized needle and inject somebody. So we have to ask ourselves a question, if we use the dream interview, what is the unsterilized needle representing? What? To me, it represents Freud's beliefs. And if we look at it, we say, what does an unsterilized needle tell us? What's wrong with an unsterilized needle? It's not been inspected properly. It's not been looked at clearly. It's not been cleansed. It's not been thought about deeply enough. Okay? So Freud's beliefs are the substance of toxic substance that he's injecting into the body of his feminine self. And this is causing damage. And then the last thing the dream does is in bold letters, it gives a formula. And the formula was for a substance that at the time they believed was male sperm. Well, there you have it. The dream is telling Freud in no uncertain terms, in bold letters, your obsession of patriarchy, your obsession of male sperm, your obsession with sexuality is contaminating what you're injecting into the body of yourself and others in terms of your belief systems. If Freud had known about dreams, he would have taken the meaning of the dream and said, "Hey, I'm going in the wrong direction." But he didn't have enough knowledge to do that. If he'd gone to Jung, when Jung may have helped him. So Freud could never figure out what was going on with the dream. He writes about it. He said, why would his friend Otto do such a thing? And blah, 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 blah. Otto, his friend, represents the part of himself that's well-meaning and is upstanding and would never, because Freud had that side of him too. So that's my interpretation of the dream, and I feel that it's very interesting that one of the most famous dreams of history, if Freud had gotten that, psychology would have gone in a different direction. If you read some of Freud's interpretation of dreams, he's nuts. I mean, his obsession with sexuality and masturbation and is just off the charts. But the dream was telling him that in no uncertain terms. You have a question?
So then would you say when friends or family or people that you know well are in your dreams, is it the same analogy as the Brad Pitt thing that you said, that you're seeing your pieces that you kind of interpret them as, or are they really representing those family members, friends?
There's some contention with dream workers about when you see close family, whether it's them or whether, I tend to look at that, primarily I will always look first at what does someone in a dream represent as part of myself. So let's say I see my sister in a dream that I've been having trouble with, but she's really in good spirits. It generally means that I've reconciled that part inside myself into a state of more wholeness. That's why I always tell people, if something shows up in a dream that's positive, be happy. Because what it's showing you is that part of you is somehow at least, you might not access it all the time, but it's there. It wouldn't be in the dream if you didn't have it in your psyche. And therefore, if there's a strength that shows itself in the dream, know that that strength is inside you. Otherwise, it couldn't appear in the dream. It would appear in a different way. I had a friend who had a dream in which she was dancing, and all of a sudden, this really handsome young man came to dance with her, and then he had to go off to the phone. So this is what I say about what is absent is present. So she doesn't know what the phone call was about. And then he comes back and starts dancing with her again. So to me, this young man represented her male self. At that time, she was out on the road looking for direction. Like we usually say, the male side or the right side of the body is about action, going out, doing. The female side is the more receptive, nurturing, emotional self, that part of self that deals with self-image, those kinds of things. So this was her male side of self, and at that point in the dream, because he was in such a good space, that was really good. What was interesting is when he went off stage, I said, can you get to the phone? And she couldn't do it. So I said, ask him, become him in the dream, and ask him what the phone call was about. So she did become him, and he said, I was calling my office to see if I had room to fit you in my life. So think about her male self and her male energy, the relationship to her inner male energy. Does she have room to fit her male energy into her life? And then I said to her, it's very positive that you continue dancing, because if the dream was in more what we call shadow form, then what would happen is he wouldn't have come back, you would have stumbled out on the streets and you would have 3 guys attacking you. And that would have been, and I'm going to get to that in a second, it would have been a shadow form of what we call a nightmare. Okay, so then we get to the point about, so I've already talked about the dream changes, it's called the changing face of the dream. Dreams will always change as the waking life changes. So the dream can't change until the waking life changes. There was a guy in one of these books, he just really was fed up with his ordinary life. He wanted to feel good in his dreams, so he asked his dreams for flying dreams. Give me flying dreams. They did, they put him in 3rd class in coach. The dreaming mind is not going to BS him. You're not getting away from your stuff. Yeah, he thought he was going to be, my daily life is lousy, but I'll be flying and soaring in my dreams. No, you're not. You're going to be in 3rd class and coach, and you're going to work your stuff out. Because this is going to represent where you really are. You feel stuck and trapped. So we're not going to like cater and pander to you. That's how powerful the dreaming and smart the dreaming mind is. So, like I said, you have a question?
Yeah, how do you feel about wish fulfillment? Because I think that was Freudian.
In what way in dreams?
Basically wishing, for something that you didn't quite get. Or that you feel as though you deserve.
Mm-hmm. And how it will show up in dreams? I just gave an example.
Right, but I'm saying, I think...
He wanted to fly, but the dream said,
But wasn't that basically a Freudian concept originally?
Well, I'm not saying Freud was wrong about everything. I mean, Freud was the father of all this. Freud was the great breakthrough of understanding that all this stuff didn't come from the gods,
Right.
or from some demons or muses or anything like that, but came from within ourselves. I mean, this was a huge breakthrough. Freud was the father of psychology. And yes, there are many things Freud got right. Like this issue of condensation he got right. I just don't think the Freud Foundation really understood the fullness of, he was kind of lost with dreams. So, actually I don't think dreams deal with wish fulfillment. I think it's the opposite. I think dreams show you the reality.
Yes,
I would not say that dreams, I don't think you get wish fulfillment in dreams. I think it's the opposite. Dreams will show you what's really going on. They're not going to pander to you, and in your dream you're going to get the wish fulfilled of what you thought you wanted. It doesn't work that way. The dream's going to show you what's really going on. And dreams are brutal. They will never lie, they're brutal. They will always show you the truth. So now what you can do, there's some things you can do that are more esoteric with dreams. You can incubate a dream. You can ask a dream a question. You can ask your dreaming mind a question and try to give you an answer on a situation, but that's not wish fulfillment per se, it's asking for guidance. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing while I'm
Okay.
thinking about it, I have repetitive dreams at times. They come and go.
They're called recurring dreams, yeah.
Okay, they're usually anxiety provoking.
Yes.
And it's either something I didn't do or something I did do that I should not have.
Okay.
Right, you know.
Yes. I have them down here about recurring dreams, and I said negative recurring dreams are the strongest examples of nightmares, or the forcefulness of dreams. Usually when you have recurring dreams, the dreaming mind understands this is such an important issue, it's just not gonna let you alone. And it's gonna hit you like a dog with a bone. The strongest case I had of this was at Norristown Library. There's a woman who had the same recurring dream every single night. You know, because that issue is, so when you pay attention, you start to understand what the meaning of the recurring dream is. The dreaming mind feels there is such a powerful issue that it will just not let you alone. And it will always show up. It depends on how often you have it. You might have it 2 or 3 times a month, you might have it 2 or 3 times a year, but you're right. For a lot of us, recurring dreams will come at times of great anxiety or stress. And therefore, many of these core issues of this third arc, lifetime issues, will be presenting themselves in our lives. And it goes down to the marrow, the bone, and then we will have, I have a recurring, there's certain recurring dreams I have, don't pay enough attention to them, because in the dream is the information that we need to get out of the pickle, oftentimes. The dream is showing us where the problem lies. You know, and that's why I say it's like an amazing therapy session. The question is, can we understand the dream well enough to then use the information to make change? You know, we may need professional help, we may need to go to a support system. There are many things we may need to do with the information. What I say for myself in working with dreams, and I'm very clear with this with people, the work I do is therapeutic, but I am not a therapist. And therefore, people have come up to me with some very severe issues, and I'll say, your dreams have revealed certain very important issues to work on. I am not qualified to work on them with you. Although with some people I can help them a great deal, I said, I think you need to see a professional. You know, the dream has brought up the edge of where I can go, and I'm not qualified to go any farther. So let's say someone's having a real bad issue in their marriage. I'm not qualified to deal with that. You know? I can say where the dream is, you know, so therefore, my suggestion always is to work with some form of a professional at that particular time. So the dream always tends to change as the waking life changes. And so new elements can be introduced as the waking life changes. Nightmares. This is important. We're close to it. Welcome nightmares. Why? This is what Jung called the shadow. A nightmare is a part of yourself that you have dispossessed, cut off, or shut out. And is trying to reintegrate. It is giving you information. So for instance, when I first started doing this, I had a workshop, and a woman had a dream of a fire. It's kind of a recurring dream of a fire racing down a hill into a school she was in. She would crawl into a table, but it was an old wooden table that was like from the 1500s, that represented kind of spirituality and religion. So I asked her to become the fire. Now I made a mistake. I tried to interpret, which is wrong. It's your dream, not my dream. And I've had many times I work with people, but I thought the dream is going to go this way, it goes this way. I've got to follow where it goes for you. It's your dream. That's why they say there's a kind of mistake in the meaning that only the dreamer can interpret the dream. Not entirely true. People who are unskilled cannot really interpret their own dreams very well. However, it's true that whatever meaning is in the dream has to resonate for you and feel that it's true. You can't have someone force a meaning onto you. Okay? That's part of true. There's one other thing I want to point out. And I read it from Gail Delaney. I had the understanding before I read it in Gail Delaney. There's a misconception sometimes, if you take a dream to 10 different dream workers, you're going to get 10 different interpretations that are all correct. Not true. There's one core meaning to the dream. And every good dream worker that works with the dream with you should come to that same meaning. However, because each dream worker is different, there are pieces of the core thing that one person's going to get that another person's not. If I work at a dream, I'm going to get 80% of it, but I'm probably going to lose, whereas another dream worker is going to pick up certain things that I don't pick up. But the core meaning of the dream is one. So a lot of people think, no, you got 10 people, they're all correct. It's all relative. No, it's not. There's one core meaning to the dream. And anybody you go to who's good at this should come to that same basic core meaning. Now the shadow piece with nightmares, I'll give you an example. So for her, I had her become the fire. And I thought it was anger. But that's just me projecting my stuff on her. As she came in, she said, no, it's my passion. So she had lost her passion for life. Therefore, her passion being dispossessed and cut out, and she was squelching it, comes back as a raging fire in the dream. To give her information like, you're shutting me out. Now, what was interesting is, the one place where she can't be reached is in her spirituality. She's hiding under the table. And that was the one protective element in her life. So therefore, the fire couldn't get her there. But she constantly had the same dream. She'd be at school, and the fire would sweep down. The dream was constantly telling her, I'm your passion, you're locking me out, let me back in. So Roger Kamenetz, who wrote a very fine book, although I don't agree with him with everything, but he's very gifted with dream work, was on Oprah and on her audio thing, but he has written articles for the New York Times about don't be afraid of your nightmares because they have information to give you. What are you locking out? If you can contact, so I'll give you an example from a tribe in Africa. In the tribe in Africa, cattle are the measure of currency, not money. So the men are allowed to own cattle and the women aren't. Okay? So the more cattle you have, the more richer you are. The healthier the cattle are, the better off you are, the more status you have in the community. The men all had wonderful dreams of cattle. You know? I mean, you know, they'd have dreams of cattle, and the women had nightmares about cattle. And in the dreams, the cattle were raging monsters with horrible red eyes and a herd stampeding and coming toward them and blazing to kill them. So what's going on in the dream based on what we said? What are the cattle representing? If cattle represent power and status, and women are not allowed to have it, then they are dispossessed and cut off from it. The cattle will appear in their dreams as attacking in nightmare form, in shadow, what Jung called shadow. So does that make sense? Okay. So therefore, when you have a nightmare, don't freak out. Lean into it and start networking a little bit with the symbols in the dream and see, what have I shut out in my life that's authentic and strong? Is it my strength? Is it my passion? What am I angry about? I had a woman who had a dream where Isis, she was very much into what we call goddess energy, and Isis is an Egyptian goddess, but Isis is also the name of a terrorist group. This is Freud's example of condensation. So this ISIS terrorist group was, at the end of the dream, was coming to get her. Well, I said to her, this is your shadow expressing itself, it's your power. Because if we look at terrorists, they are powerful, but in a negative way, in a shadow way. But as Freud said, the image was condensed into two forms. It also represented the goddess energy within her that she had dispossessed. She had come back to the east, and her mother was running around like crazy, and she was giving away her power. For her, this was a big third arc lifetime issue. And so when I went through it with her, and we had to wait a couple of years before she finally understood, when we revisited it, the dream was showing her that she was furious at having given away her power. And her power was trying to alert her in no uncertain terms in the dream that their power had been cut out, which had, came in two different forms, one negative, one positive, but conflated in the name of ISIS, and saying, I want back in. Therefore, there's a positive there, not a negative. You have to look and see what's going on. Does that make sense? And that's one of the most important things that you can do, is like, don't freak out about your nightmares. Once you settle down after having one, write it down and say, what information is this giving me about something that I have pushed away that is positive, strong, and good, and is trying to reintegrate into me. Use the information. And then the last thing is, be wary, this is really important, be very wary of taking dreams literally. This is the biggest mistake I see people make. I had a friend who had a dream that Obama was assassinated. In 2008, she voted for Clinton. And she didn't understand the dream was being symbolic. Well, let's use the dream interview technique. In 2008, what would Barack Obama stand for?
Power.
Power, very good. He was extremely charismatic, powerful, eloquent, creative, strong individual in 2008. In his dream. So her dreaming mind used him, and of course, he was in a big, we have to look at another point about Obama. Was he on a small stage or a large stage in terms of the culture?
Large.
Large stage. she was planning a transition in her life to a larger stage and expanding her. She's also a very, very intuitive gal who does a lot of extremely creative and intuitive things. Is a very powerful young woman. She's about close to, I knew her when she was 19. She's about 35 now. No, wait, she's close to 40 now, because I've known her about 23 years. 23, yeah, about 42. But in her family history was made up of, don't you dare do that. Don't you dare be strong. It's called annihilation fears in psychology. So the immediate move was here, the lifetime issue was here, and it showed up as Obama being killed. And she took it literally. She thought it was a literal premonition. I said, it's not a premonition. It's about symbolically what's going on in your life. She didn't believe me. Obama's still alive, isn't he? Here we are, what, 10 years later? I mean, if this was a precognitive dream, a true precognitive dream, he would have been assassinated within a couple of months. But it wasn't. But she took it literally, and I've had people be very confused about this. And now constantly the conscious mind will get in the way and look for the literal interpretation. When in reality, you have to take dreams symbolically. And mostly, they're about your inner life. There's this guy, Calvin Hall, who took 50,000 dreams from every culture in the world and examined them over 10 years. And nobody was dreaming about other people. Every dream was always about themselves. And that's not bad. That's the way dreams work. Dreams are information for you about what's going on in your inner world. It's not about a commentary on the world. It's a commentary on your world. Now, I will say, if you get a precognitive dream, there are a few people who do their dreams where they are about something externally, but it's rare. Almost all dreams are about our inner life, what's going on. It's a feedback mechanism to guide you, to help you, to heal you, and to reveal what's going on. When you see what's really going on, it's just mind-blowing. So that's the end of the more lecture part of this. It usually takes about an hour. Does anybody have any questions before we move on about what kind of?
I just have a question about nightmares. Why do children have so many nightmares?
Because they're usually abused. Children are very sensitive, so I've talked to, usually, I forget the name of it, I talked to a young man therapist. There are two types of dreams. The dream that generally shows you the landscape, and there's a dream that processes and wants to give you guidance. Children are not at a stage where they can yet get guidance from dreams. So for instance, I talked to a woman said when she was young, she would always climb a mountain. She'd be at the base of the mountain, there'd be a beautiful table with a beautiful umbrella, she'd sit down, and all of a sudden a huge avalanche would come roaring down and like overrun everything. Well, her father would go into these rages about 3 or 4 times a month, and everybody would have to hide from him. So guess what the avalanche was? I guess what the table over is the innocence of childhood, and then all of a sudden, here comes Dad's anger again, you know? So I think children can be easily frightened about things, and therefore, so you always want to look at what's going on in the child's life. Something that we may think as an adult is not such a big deal, may be a really big deal to a child. So if they get in a fight with somebody during a day, or they think that their cat is lost, you know, they might have a nightmare where the adult might see it as just a normal thing. But for the child, it's expanded, it's much bigger. So I would think that they would be more prone to things that might frighten them, because the world yet doesn't make sense, at least in the way that at least we've grown up enough to do that.
Would you say, does sleep paralysis fall into the category of dreaming, or is that something else?
I'm not that familiar with that. I've had it myself. I think there's something going on, I don't know, but I would say, I guess, that something's going on with the astral body, and my intuition tells me that something is going on in the psyche that's causing that, you know? And so on some level, we might feel frozen in a certain way. So I'm getting intuitionally that there's something going on. It wouldn't happen if it wasn't something as opposed. So we might examine that as to, is there places in my life where I struggle with kind of coming to the surface, or, because I've had that in my life too, where all of a sudden you feel stuck and you're trying to wake yourself up. I don't have that too much anymore. It's interesting. But there was a period of time when I went through that. And that's true with dreams. You go through periods where certain things will really affect us, and then the dreams will change as we move forward in our life. So certain recurring dreams we had as nightmares, or recurring dreams when we were young, all of a sudden disappear because we resolve those issues, and then we don't have them anymore, they tend to go away, because they've been resolved. Are there any other questions before?
What about the length of dreams? I mean, sometimes my dreams seem to go on for days.
I think they did research, most of the research has shown that feature-length dreams that run anywhere from 20 minutes to 40 minutes.
Oh, it is that long?
Yeah, they are long. They're not like, the old idea that the dream is like 3 seconds, but if it, that's not true.
Okay, good.
When they rig people with wires, I think dreams are at least 20 minutes.
No.
But, you know, I mean, feature-length dreams are long. Those eye movements are going crazy, you know. That's why you can feel very exhausted from a dream. You know, because the whole body's having a whole response. So you can think you're having a good night's sleep and you have all these intense dreams, you're way exhausted. You have a question?
Yeah, do you remember all your dreams every night?
I have good dream recall, so I tend to remember a couple, usually every night. And if I want to, and usually what I do these days though is I will only write down a particular dream if I feel it really calls to me. I've had some really strange ones lately and I should have worked with them more, but I didn't. But I do, there's some that really call to me and I want to spend time with, can really work with. So maybe 3 or 4 times a month, I'll sit down and really write them out and really see if I can work with it. And sometimes I'll know intuitively really quickly what's going on, you know, in terms of, okay, this symbol is really standing out. That's really telling me something that's going on. Generally what we will find is that dreams tend to every night try to get the same issue from a different lens. They're remarkable. It's like a kaleidoscope, an infinite kaleidoscope, and they're constantly coming at the same issues. So if we have certain predominant issues, something in the second arc that is really predominant for us, like say someone's in the hospital, it's really on our mind. We have a lot of dreams about that. But this third arc of our lifetime issues might kick in here and there. Once those set of circumstances tend to pass, the dreams will tend to move on to a more different kind of issue that we want to work with.
I'm sorry, one more thing. So the ones that we tend to remember are sort of right before we wake up. Is that our mind kind of trying to say that?
I don't know. I think it's, but it does seem to be that the ones that seem to stay are the ones right before we wake up. If you have really good, I was with a therapist many years ago. He wouldn't work with me in my dreams, but he had me write them down. And I was writing down 7 dreams a night. I mean, it would take me like an hour and a half to 2 hours to write down all the dreams. You know, and he was looking at them, but he wouldn't share with me what was going on. I want to, do we have any other questions? Yeah, sure.
Do you ever have a dream, I do, where you wake up to go to the bathroom and you can't wait to get back to the dream because it was so enjoyable?
Yeah.
And you do, and you actually get back into it.
But I can understand, yeah. Are you able to get back into it?
Yeah.
That's good for you. Some people can do that, others can't. It's like, you know. Usually if I have a good dream and I wake up, that's pretty much it. You know, and it's, they are very luscious when they're good. Because in dreams, we're without the constraints of our physical bodies and our resistances. So we tend to feel things much more strongly. Like if I'm in a dream crying, which I rarely do in waking life, but something has like really bothered me and I'm weeping, I'm just weeping very deeply, which I rarely can do in waking life, but I can easily do in dreams. I did want to get to, see, are you okay with this?
Yes, fine.
I want to see if we can get to, now, try to do, we don't have that much time, so we have about 35 minutes. So what I want to do is get into a place where people can jump at me and bring up some dreams they've had, and we can work a little bit with a few dreams. So what's your name?
Michelle.
Michelle? Okay, tell me kind of the outline of the dream. No, I can't get into the whole dream, it might take too long to write down everything.
It's a pretty simple dream, that's why I'm confused.
Oh, it might, well, then, if we have very short fragments, sometimes we don't get this whole 7 4-stage piece.
Alright, well,
What happened in the dream?
in the dream, I'm at the top of the stairs,
Top of the stairs.
and I hear my mother's hearing aid, which always whistled when she slept, because she would knock it out of her ear.
Mhm.
So I'm hearing the hearing aid go up, and all of a sudden there's a man standing in front of me, and I said to him, that's my mom's hearing aid, she must have knocked it out again.
Mhm.
We walked down this
Hold on,
hallway, sorry. Now, her bedroom door was open,
Okay,
okay?
so you walk where?
We start to walk down the hallway, and there's a door that's open, but the whole space is black, just like the screen.
Mhm.
And we get to, there's a dim light over top, there's the old time, wallpaper.
Mhm.
And as soon as I see the wallpaper and the dim light, we're both just standing there, and that's total end of the dream. And like I said, it's pretty.
Okay. When did you have this dream?
Last night.
Oh, last night. Okay. The first question I always ask people is, what was happening in your waking life the day of the dream?
Really hardly anything. I wasn't feeling that well, so I spent most of my day in bed just,
Okay, you were feeling sick.
yeah, just had a headache, and my eye doctor gave me eye drops, that's it.
Got some eye drops. What else has been going on in your life kind of this week?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, everything.
Has there been an issue or anything on your mind?
No.
No? Okay. Whose house is it, by the way?
I actually believe it was an aunt's house.
Aunt's house. So that's the setting of the dream, is the aunt's house.
Yeah,
Is the aunt still alive, or is the aunt passed?
no, she passed.
She passed, okay. But it looked like the aunt's house.
It did, it looked like her hallway.
How'd you feel about your aunt?
She was a sweetheart.
Did you go visit her a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we take a look at the house's structure of life, and it's your aunt's house, not your house, was this a place you used to go to visit a lot?
Well, she's actually my husband's aunt, and my ex-husband's aunt, and yes, we used to go down all the time to visit her,
Okay.
yes.
And it was a very good feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the dream opens up in a pleasant setting. So she had stairs in her house? She had-
Yeah,
Okay. She was at the top of the stairs. Do you remember any other details about the top of the stairs?
just at the banister, which was at her place, was the big old round top
Mm-hmm.
and the dark wood.
Okay. So it's kind of like, looks like her house
Yes.
looked like. She at the top of the stairs. And then you hear the whistle of your mother's hearing aid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What did you used to feel, were there any particular feelings you had when that would happen to you when you were younger? Were you younger when your mother would wear?
Oh, my mother's more, the whole time.
Okay, so this time since you were very young?
Yes.
Okay. And so what feelings did you usually have in life when your mother's,
We just go in and shake her, and
what?
we'd go in and shake her and tell her either put her hearing aid back on, or
Mhm.
please put her.
Your mother passed?
Yes.
Okay. But in the dream, your mother's alive?
I just hear the hearing aid, I don't ever see her.
Okay. I'm gonna try to do two things here. Just drop this. I want you to become a hearing aid if you can. I don't know if you can do this or not.
Yeah.
Try it. Feel the whistling of the hearing aid. Feel its strange sound. Reminds you of your mother. You know? But the hearing aid actually is a part of you and your life. It has some reason for being in the dream. So become the hearing, or feel that whistle, try to become that whistle of the hearing aid, and see if it has any information for you as to why it's in the dream.
I mean, I'm not.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What was your relationship with your mother like?
Oh, very good.
Very good.
We'd go over, she'd come over on the phone every day.
Okay. So that's good. So you got two family members where the relationship are really good, and really positive. Okay. Do you know who the man is?
No.
I want you, this is something that I have you try to do. I think the man's really important. I'm going to try to see, to become the man, see what part of you he represents. Try that. Just, is he, first of all, let's do the thing. Is he large? Is he tall? Is he stocky? How is he dressed?
He's tall,
Okay, this is important. He's tall.
medium build,
Okay.
and he's wearing a top hat.
Very what?
Top hat.
Was a top hat. Interesting. What else? How else did you dress? You have a suit on?
Yeah, suit, a black suit, dimension top hat.
A black suit, okay. Is it new? That's important. Is the suit new or is it like ragged? I mean,
No, it's not ragged, it's
But
really new, yeah.
it looks new. What about shoes?
I didn't see shoes.
What?
Didn't see any shoes.
Okay.
Didn't see any.
And he's an adult. How old is he?
I'm gonna say probably in his 30s.
30s, he's young.
Oh my God.
What?
She lost her son.
I
when she was
lost my
21.
son, and it didn't dawn on me that was.
He would be around 30.
Okay. Interesting. And black suit would have a lot to do.
Would be normal, old, like funerals.
Yeah,
But he
funeral.
was dressed like. he
Although
always-
top hat, this is interesting.
Well, I do ancestry.
What?
I do ancestry.
Hmm? Okay. What do we usually sit the top hats with though?
That's like.
No, people don't wear top hats to funerals.
No.
Formal, but we also, people tend to wear top hats to some form of formal celebration or.
My brother-in-law wore one to his wedding.
Right, okay. So it's interesting that the man has the black suit on, but he does have the top hat. You know, so there's an interesting mixture of, and it's a male energy.
Mhm.
And so you're walking down the hall, the door opens and there's a dim light. Which is the door to? The
No, the door doesn't open, the door is already open and it's black.
The door's
like
already
this
open.
Green,
Okay.
like that, you know, like you can't see anything in there at all.
And this is where your mother would be from the hearing aid?
My mother was behind me in the other room.
So
with
what
the
room
door.
is, what room are you going into?
Just, this, we're not going into any, we're just, as I'm walking down the hallway, that room, I see the door opening and the blackness, but we just keep on going. And I want to say, like in a dream, it would probably be about like 5 feet and then the light was dim and that was,
Okay. I would ask you to try to see if you can feel the energy of the room. And see if you can feel anything about the energy of the room that the door's opening to. Just try to do that, and see if you can feel anything about it. Just try
try that later, since I don't want to go into that right now with kids with my son.
Okay. Well, if you're feeling sick, obviously when people are feeling sick, it's interesting there are two counterpoints in this dream. One is the aunt and the mother, and also echoes of the past. You know, so the setting of the dream is very much about feelings that are coming up about the past. Because you're not in your own home, it's not present, it's in the house of somebody who's passed. And the whistle of your mother's hearing aid is like, it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode, where you hear the whistle or the echoes of the past, but you don't quite know what's going on,
Right.
you know, in that kind of way. So there's something haunting about all of this.
Well, I think that's why it stuck with me so much, because I woke up and was like, what was that all about? And
Well, it's interesting if you have echoes of the past, and then all of a sudden a young man appears, and your son died, unfortunately. Was he like cancer, or do you have an accident, or you don't want to say?
Self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Well, then that would really, then the way he's dressed.
It never dawned on me
Yeah.
ever doing this.
Yeah.
You know, when I said there was no
Yeah,
reason.
so now, the fact is that, so, I don't know if this is now, let me ask you a question. When you had the dream, did it feel more intense than normal?
No, it didn't.
Well, I'm trying to figure out if this is a visitation, or is this your subconscious working out your issues with your son?
I don't wanna say it was working out, because, I mean, I've come to.
No, but you have to remember that dreams
Right.
always are below with the conscious mind. So if echoes of the son, I don't know if this is your son per se, but clearly there are echoes of your son, and the feelings of your son in the way he's dressed, his age,
I felt very loved and welcoming
from him.
from the house,
Mhm,
even hearing my mother's hearing aid,
mhm.
and from him also.
From him also?
Mhm.
Okay. But there's a room you don't want to go into.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's something of some, would you say there's some feeling of dread of the room?
In there, in my dream, I was curious. I
You were
wanna
curious.
say. Yeah, not dreading it, just very curious.
But you don't know what's in the dream, you don't know what's in
Yeah,
the room.
I have no idea.
From what I can tell at the moment, how have you reconciled yourself to your son's death?
Yes.
Okay.
No, well, to a degree. I'm listening.
Well, it feels to me, from what I can get from this cursory piece here, that when we were sick, and how ill did you feel? I mean, I'm sure you didn't feel like you had a terrible flu or something like that.
Yeah, no, I just had a headache and a, like, upset stomach when I was laying down. Yeah,
Mhm.
nothing like,
Okay, you weren't at death's door. right?
oh, God, no.
Okay. But dreams when you're sick can kick off feelings of vulnerability,
Mhm.
okay? So it feels to me there's a lot of issues of how you as a child felt. You've got your aunt, you've got your mother's whistle, you have echoes of the past.
Right.
And one might say these are, in a good way, but still in a certain way, kind of haunting. You know?
Mhm.
They're not everyday occurrences.
Right.
You know, you're not seeing your next door neighbor, whatever.
Mhm.
You've situated yourself in the past in two ways. In three ways, actually, because the young man who comes towards you also reminds you of your son. Okay? But there are two elements that seem to be going on here. One is you are somehow being triggered back into feelings about the past
Mhm.
and about like what it meant to you, particularly because the son is the primal figure that is, so he would then be the issue.
Right.
But at the same time, there's kind of both things happening. The good feeling that seems to be emanating from all of it, and yet a certain mystery,
Right.
or a certain kind of like vagueness, or you're not sure of where things are,
Mhm.
you know, in all of this.
She wanted to know what led up to what happened, is what the big thing is.
Well, yeah, that's always the question
Right.
when somebody,
Well, in that case, then, what may be interesting is that because you don't know what happened, apparently you're not sure what led up to,
right.
that the room holds the key, but you're not ready yet to go in.
Oh.
See, if you had the answers, you might go in and there might be symbols in the room that would indicate for you the answers.
Okay.
So it sounds like, now, had you been thinking about your son at all?
Oh, I think about them every day.
Okay, okay, so here we now have, we kind of now have more of a picture of your dream. As the dream gives us a more complete narrative of kind of what's going on. The trigger is twofold. One is the fact you think about your son fairly constantly. You're in a vulnerable state, which is going to make you bring up perhaps feelings of the way you felt when you were a child.
Right.
Where you also needed perhaps to feel a sense of self-comfort that you were not being able to have at that moment because you were sick.
That could be.
And therefore, it harkens back to the aunt and mom,
Mhm.
where you did feel that you had good relationships.
Right.
So in a way, you're looking for, or you're hoping for nurturing energy,
Oh, okay.
you know? And then the sun is here, these two arcs. And what you're looking for, and kind of what's always been on your mind, is what's in that room. The room, to me, seems to represent in this kind of Twilight Zone-y kind of dream,
Right.
you know? And the fact that your son has got wearing a top hat is interesting. It's something either celebratory or formal is going on in your mind about him
Okay.
and his death. So the bottom line here is that you can't yet enter the room, you know, and the light is dim.
Right.
I have a question about her.
Sure.
On the news, there was that Kate Spade, someone famous, that committed suicide.
Yeah.
Did that have triggered? That was just
There was
a
perhaps
What, 3
a
years
fashion
ago?
artist?
Yeah. I mean, it just was all over the news, so it makes you wonder.
I didn't find out till today.
No, see, if she
no.
hadn't, if she hadn't gotten out about it,
Yeah.
it can't be a dream. It seems to me that it seems to me the more that she's thinking about
Mhm.
her son fairly constantly,
Okay.
she's in a vulnerable state, not
Yeah.
feeling well. And not major, so therefore, it seems to me like your inner self is looking for, where's the comfort that I could feel around all of this? That I used to feel with my aunt, I used to feel with my mother. Even the whistle itself was strangely comforting.
Yeah, because I heard it my whole life.
Right. So therefore I knew it was a part of my mom sleeping, and so it becomes part of a kind of a thread of our past where there's good association. So there is a desire, this would come back to your issue of wish fulfillment, but it's not in the formal way that Freud talked about it. There is a desire at the particular existential moment of a need for some sense of nurturing. And part of that nurturing at the core goes back at the end, both here and at the end, where they
Right.
the dream wraps it really quickly.
Right.
Is very much about, I really would like to know what led up to my son's death, that has haunted me for a long time. And you're walking with him to an open door, but you can't get in the room. So the answer still lies in the dark, you know?
And the fact that, who's holding the hearing aid, you or your son?
Nobody.
Oh, no one, oh, okay.
No, it
All
was
right.
just.
So she doesn't even know if the mother's actually.
Okay, because I was thinking, yeah, it was,
You
it
know,
was
so
something.
there's a kind of Twilight Zone-y feeling about this dream, it's very interesting. But to me, then it makes sense when we put all the pieces together, that you're getting in very vivid and very deep, authentic form, your feelings about what's going on with you at the moment, some things you would like to have in your life at the moment. You know, we have to put ourselves to bed, we're not feeling well, we certainly would love to have mom come by with chicken soup and like make it all right, or wrap us in, and you know, the monsters go away and all this stuff. You know, and there is a monster, there is a shadow piece in your life that your son took his life, and therefore, there's always been a question in your mind, and the dream brings you back to that.
Yes.
Yeah, have you had other dreams where you've like tried to open that door and was?
This is the first time I've had this dream.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know, and he's been gone for what, 11 years?
7 years. There's some confluence between, dreams are never accidental, so there's some confluence between the circumstances of your life and feeling not well, the season, and maybe some other things that might be going on that you're not remembering at the moment, that led to this becoming more in the forefront of the dreams. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So therefore, we do see real quickly, this dream moves very quickly from bing to bang.
Right.
You know, actually from bing to bang to bang, there's not a whole lot of.
Yeah, but it's, yeah.
Well, the development is more in how he's dressed
Mhm.
and all that stuff. But you can see, sometimes they'll move very quickly.
Right.
You know, if we have a much longer, full-length, feature-length Technicolor dream, then these things tend to play out differently. But they can play out very quickly. Does that make sense to you now?
It does, and I just figured out, I've always said that now he's with my mother and his aunt and my grandma.
Now that makes
That
it more,
just-
now we say, now we have more sense about how the
Okay.
aunt and the mother. Now everything comes full circle. That the dream is like really laying out for you.
Yeah, it just hit me that I've always, you know, when he passed, I said that.
Well, they do say when you cross over that you meet your loved ones on the other side.
Oh.
You know, they're there to greet you, even if you have taken your own life. No one's going down to hell because they kill themselves.
That's right. That's
It's just like a life lesson. This is my belief. From everything I've learned.
And I have to believe that.
Well, but to me, from everything I've read from hypnotherapists and near-death experiences, there's no punishment in the universe. There's a difference between discipline and punishment. The universe has ways, particularly through reincarnation, of kind of settling scores and making sure we learn our lessons, but nobody's sent to hell. I don't wanna, this is a hard thing because I know there are religious people, at least here, I'll say from my experience of 50 years in spirituality, and that God is not punishing. So no one goes to eternal torment. There are ways to straighten out everything. You know, and usually people who've committed suicide are welcomed. It's just a lesson. You know, there could be many reasons why it happened, and the universe is a very forgiving place, where the higher power is very forgiving, and therefore if there's an incomplete lesson, you come back and you learn it again, or you approach it again in different ways.
Thank you.
I have like sometimes I'll dream and if something happens, I'm trying to say like help, and I'm saying help, but it just won't come out. Or I'm trying to call somebody's name and I'm trying, and I hear myself saying the name.
When's the
but-
last time you had this one?
Oh, about a couple of months ago.
Okay, what was happening in your life at the time?
Walking and
Okay, is this a recurring dream?
not really, just every couple of months.
No, that's a recurring dream.
Well,
So, let me ask you a question. Where do you feel muzzled in your life?
Geez, I don't know, could be a lot of things like that. I don't know.
Are you married?
No.
Okay. Where do you feel that you're not able to speak up as much as you would like?
Everywhere.
Okay. So if you feel, usually these kind of dreams happen when we reach a trigger point of stress.
Oh, really?
Otherwise, they'll remain kind of hidden.
Yeah.
When we feel a deeper sense, I think you were the one, someone talked about that we have recurring dreams when we feel more anxious.
Yeah.
Usually the recurring dream will come up when we hit a stress point where it passes over the stress point, and then the recurring dream will come up. So you may have a certain struggle in your life, throughout your life, around speaking up for yourself, or reaching out and asking for help from people, you know?
So you
But
can't get it out.
Right, but if you reach a stress point in your life where you're particularly struggling around that issue, then the dream is going to reflect that. Now, the dream is telling you that, you can take the information from the dream and saying, how can I correct that? This is a lifelong issue for me. If this is it, would you say that this is a dream, an issue for you that's been going on since childhood? Would you say this has been much more recent?
No, I wouldn't say recent, but I don't remember.
You said
as a
it's
child
every-
having this.
What?
When I was growing up, I never had like that kind of dream.
No, but did you have problems speaking up for yourself? Or asking for help?
Well, probably.
I used to have, I'll be right there. I used to do this thing when I was 7. I would get up and I would stand outside my parents' door. I desperately wanted to go in. This is not a dream, this is in waking life.
Oh.
And I would wait. And I could not reach, because they were abusive. But I wanted them so badly. So I'd stand outside the door for 10 minutes aching, and then I'd go back to bed. So even when I was young, I could not reach out very well to other people. If you're having trouble now in your life, either when you're in trouble reaching out for people for help, or you gotta feel like I do it by myself, that kind of stuff, you know, or you've got areas, it's gonna come up in the dream as not being able to get it out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. You had a question? Or a dream? What is it?
No, not possibly a dream. Is it possible that physical things that are happening to you at that particular time could also be the reason why you're thinking of, you're dreaming something and you're not, say you really can't breathe that well, if you have a stuffed up nose or whatever,
Mhm.
and then you have a dream.
Yeah, I
Does
think
that dream
absolutely.
belong-
I know that it's almost universal. If you eat a big meal before you go to bed, you'll have nightmares. You know, at least for me. For some reason, a full belly tends to bring on nightmares. If I'm listening to the radio, you know, and it's a sports radio, then the dream will start to conflate with what's going on. Usually dreams will pick up on our physical things.
So then actually try not to
There's a lot of times
make
you really have to go to the
things.
bathroom, probably a lot of you experience this. You see yourself going to the bathroom with a dream.
Yes.
You're really feeling like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden you wake up, it's like, oh God, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
The dream is picking up on your physical symptoms, and so, yeah, there is a lot of that going on, but usually most of the dreams we have are not, unless, for instance, let's say you got cancer or something, then you're gonna have a lot of dreams that are going on about the condition. Or let's say you took a bad fall and you broke an arm, and how it affects your life, you're gonna have a lot of dreams about that. It's gonna be that second arc. And if there's something about the third arc that gets in there, you know, it's gonna come up. So yes, I think dreams are very influenced by physically what's going on. Your question?
I'm sorry. I've been having a lot of dreams about, like, going into a nice house on the outer part.
Mhm.
When I get in, it's dark,
Mhm.
there's no furniture, or it's like,
Mhm.
which my life is chaotic right now.
Mhm.
And then I go up to this, like an attic,
Mhm.
and there's like a white door.
Mhm.
And I know that there's somebody with me, but I
Mhm.
can't see them. And I get up to the door, and I can't open the door, and it's a white door.
Mhm.
And it's very vividly white, but I don't know, I'm trying to get into something maybe, I don't know, but,
I can tell you my interpretation of it.
yeah.
I mean, we don't have
And the
much
house
time
is
to
nice
go-
on the outside, it's weird, but on the inside it's,
I would love to, if I took more time, I would go through it with you. To me,
Yeah.
the dream is pretty clear.
is.
Yes.
Maybe it's
Given the
not
fact
good.
that you're one of the few people who actually has precognitive dreams, it sounds to me that you're a pretty intuitive person.
Yeah, but sometimes I know it, and then sometimes I don't.
Okay,
It's
do you
very
consider
confusing.
yourself-
It's a retarded, you know.
Okay, do you consider yourself a kind of a spiritual person?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, to me, here's what the dream says. If the house is the structure of your life, on the outside, everything looks good, but on the inside, it's dark.
Falling
and-
apart, yeah.
Okay, where in your life do you get the correspondence? Do you feel inwardly in your life that, also the house is not your house? It's
No, it's just, it's like a light blue house on the outside,
Okay,
and
okay.
really pretty,
Yeah.
nice garden.
Okay. Where do you feel not in your own house in your life?
Oh, I'm not in my own house now, like
I'm just talking.
literally like.
You're literally
yeah,
not in your own house.
Right, I'm like in a homeless position, I've been in a hotel
Okay.
for a while.
So it would make sense that, okay, it would make sense, a couple things. Number one, the house would not be your house. This is what I talked about in the dream, was be extremely precise in its symbols. So the house is not her house, and she's not in a house right now.
Right.
But even if you did have a house, if the dream was not your house, it would mean that somehow you feel displaced.
Yes.
Or if it's a good house, you might feel there's a part of you you haven't explored yet in the structure of your life. In this case, the fact that when you go in what looks like a good house, which is maybe the outer shell of your life, but inside it's like dark and it's like there's nothing there. Okay? Does that correspond to how you feel right now?
What's that white door that I wanna get in?
No, here's what I feel about the white door. The attic, the parts of houses tend to represent, so if you're in the basement, it tends to represent really submerged subconscious feelings. If you're in the attic, you tend to represent you're moving more toward the higher self or the higher mind.
Yeah.
Okay? As a matter of fact, I have it, let's go to the Dream Dictionary just for a second, we'll go to the house. And it helps, but it's not the number one thing.
You'd think I have psychic abilities, but they're like retarded. Sometimes I know them, sometimes I don't. They come to me, but I don't. My dreams I can't always interpret.
Well, you know, that's a tough workshop.
I'm not like one of
You've got
those
so much in-
professional psychic.
There's
It's
so much
like
in
a
houses.
retarded psychic.
No, don't say that,
It
you
is,
know?
it's like it
No,
comes
but
to me
see,
sporadically.
we should never
Like
say
I
that,
don't-
we should never say that about ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're all at different stages of development, and there's nothing wrong with any stage of development. The way I see it, you're at a stage of trying to put things together.
Yeah, but why is it taking so long?
That's, I
How
can't
do I
answer.
not know
Okay,
certain things?
so hold on, attic, higher consciousness memory, stored up past. What is up there that I want or fear to explore? Well, we're gonna get there in a second. Basement, below, the unconscious. What about part of my unconscious is ready to be seen? Bathroom, paved place of cleansing and release. What am I ready to release? Bedroom, privacy, rest, intimacy. What is my inner reality? Castle, formidable but noble self. What walls am I ready to remove? Ceiling, upper limits. So every part of the house has meaning. White door, pretty simple. White light,
Spiritual?
yes.
Yeah.
It's the spiritual door, this is the very thing you want to open up in yourself, is the doorway to the higher spiritual self.
Huh.
It's bright, it's vivid, but you haven't yet been able, like her, to open the door yet. The door is waiting to be
So
opened.
how do I open it?
Well, that's, the waking life has to change. The door won't open in the dream until you figured out how to open up your spirituality more to your access to your higher intuitive abilities in a more coherent, healthy way in your waking life. Then the door will open in the dream. You can't open it up in the dream first. The waking life's gotta come first. The dream is a reflection, an expression of the waking life, not the other way around. Unless you have a dream that's from the unbounded higher self, where the higher self comes to you and gives you an intimation that that door will open. So you might get an angel come to you, or a blessing, or something that will come to you that say, don't worry, everything's gonna be
I
okay.
have had a dream one time with a number, and it was like 5:30 in the morning. I woke up,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm like in the, on the computer looking up that number, and it literally said that it was like an angel that was looking over me, and I just read the whole thing and I just cried at like 5:30 in the morning. I was like, wow, like there it is, 5:30.
How old are you?
52.
Okay, you look much younger, so.
Thank you.
You're still way ahead of me. I didn't start getting into I had a very bad nervous breakdown when I was in my 30s, didn't get myself back together until I was 42. So, my feeling is that if you have the intention of starting, this would be the other workshop I did, if you have more of an intention to start working more with your higher self, either in the form of God, your guides, angels, whatever you choose, that you will draw more support from the universe down to you and start to work out. Jesus made a statement, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these other things will be added unto you, which is reflected in the Abraham Hicks material. When one comes into alignment, then manifestation becomes easier. The whole deal in all our lives is how much are we aligned with the core central essence of ourself, however we want to name it. Do we name it God? Whatever name we wish to give it, there is a core central essence that is beyond all of this. And therefore, the more we come into alignment with that, the more things start to work out, because the more we gain strength. So the way to do that is you have to start bringing more intention into your conscious life. The dream then tends to, but the dream is showing that you really want to open that door.
Yeah.
And go through it because it's white, it's reflective of the blazing white light of the higher self. But you haven't yet been able to like.
And I think a lot of people think I'm like strange because when I do have like visions, but like I said, they just come to me. So, you know, one of my friends who's like very religious, she's like, oh, that's not of God. And I'm like, I don't know, but it saved my life a lot of times. So if that's not God, I don't know what is.
Well, I don't want to get
it's
into
good
it.
intentions.
I don't want to get, I
yeah.
can only share my own beliefs that oftentimes, unfortunately, some of our fears around these things can,
Yeah.
from my experience of 50 years, gifts are given for reasons.
Yeah.
They usually do not come from anything negative. It's just getting a handle on them,
Yeah.
you know, and therefore we are changing in society. And things that would have maybe 40 or 50 or 60 years ago really seen as like, you know, are now being seen as more acceptable. We're changing.
Yeah.
And starting to be more open, more curious, more explorative.
So sometimes I just wonder if my dreams, like you said just now, are a part of that. And because I do have those abilities, do I listen to them or do I not listen to them? Like, what meanings are they?
That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when I do workshops about how to connect to your higher self, and I lead people through it,
Yeah.
People always say, is it me or is it God? And by the end of the workshop, they say, it's God.
Yes, definitely.
So
Yeah.
generally speaking, I just have that in the other workshop where people have really strong intuitions and they always work out. They say, look, if they always tend to work out, you have to start saying, well, okay, maybe there's something really here that I need to listen to.
Right.
Because we are more than just our physical selves, and we live in a very, in the end with this, we live in a very materialistic society, which tends to not place in the way certain other societies have in the past, particularly indigenous cultures, placed a lot more emphasis on dreams, intuition, premonitions, dreams, signs, things like this were much more part of life. And we're now coming out of a period where we tend to say, you can't put it in a test tube, it's not provable. And life's not like that. And many people are like you who are having these kinds of experiences and wanting to figure out, like, how's this fit in?
Yeah.
You know?
I throw them off a lot.
But I would say if you get intuitions and they're constantly coming true,
They are always.
then you have to start really listening. You know, as I'm saying. Any last questions? Because we have to shut down because we get to.
Gotta go.
I really appreciate everybody coming out.
Thanks.